Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. In today's interview, I chat with Dave Sobleman, co-president of Sobelmans Inc, a restaurant brand that strives to deliver outstanding burgers and service to their customers and to build relationship with fans nationwide. I started off by asking Dave how he got into his business. Let's listen to his answer.
I went to Washington High School here in Milwaukee, grew up on the north side. After my mother and stepfather moved here from St. Louis, I was about 10, I think, when we moved here. Wasn't too special, didn't do too much. A couple of years after high school, more than a couple of years, I think I was 26 years old, I started a carpet cleaning business because I was sick of working for people. And the carpet cleaning business led me to downtown cleaning carpets for apartment buildings, landlords, blah, 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 property managers. Stopped into Michael's Family Restaurant in Wisconsin, met my wife, she was my waitress there, and that's how we got together. My wife, my mother-in-law, my wife's aunt, uncles, they worked for Michael Christodoulos, who owned Michael's Family Restaurant. He also owned this place. It was Margie's for 13 years. And that's how I ended up in the bar business. After so many years cleaning carpets, I kind of lost interest in it. I didn't even want to be self-employed any longer. I wanted to be at home with the kids and having dinner. But when you're self-employed, the hours you're working weekends and nights. But Michael offered us this bar. It was Marge's. The area that we're in right now is an addition. This was just a small corner bar that catered to the homeless and the factory workers. I initially turned him down. A couple of weeks later, we spoke. He talked me into it. And I was in the bar business. No experience, little restaurant experience, no bar experience, and no management experience. Somehow I found out that I was good at this, and things just took off for us big time.
Folks, Dave's story here is so common. We hear this all the time in MKE Business Coach. In many cases, business owners started with different businesses than the one they currently have. It's true for me. My first business was mowing lawns. As a matter of fact, I've owned and started 4 different businesses before starting MKE Business Coach. And the same was true for Dave. He started off carpet cleaning, got tired of it, and was given the opportunity to try something different. And did you notice that he just didn't like the idea of working for someone else? For regular listeners to this podcast, you know that this rings a bell. Many of our business owners on this show tell a similar story. They just weren't cut out to work for someone else. Or they had an idea and they felt too constrained by the current working situation, so they stepped out on their own. And did you notice that he had no restaurant experience? How on earth did that work? Let's listen to this story.
I was learning on the job big time. I think what I attribute most of my success to is just like this determination to succeed. I was refusing to lose. I knew, and I said this right away, this was going to be like my vehicle to success. I had a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to show the world. I didn't grow up feeling very special. I named the business Sobelman's Pub and Grill instead of Dave's Bar and Grill or Melanie's Bar, my wife Melanie. Some of the waitress crowd from Michael's Family Restaurant where I met my wife, they thought I was wrong. Melanie's my wife. I should name it Melanie's Bar and Grill. But I said, I want people to know this name. I want my name to be as popular as the most popular names in the city of Milwaukee. I wanted that for us. And ultimately, I was able to do that. So, but to the question was what I attribute to, it was just like this drive and to, get ahead, prove myself, be a success. And I don't know, somehow it all worked out for me. I'm a little lucky that way.
Did you hear that? I wanted people to know this name. Dave was absolutely determined to make the restaurant work, so much so that he could put his name on it. Folks, this is where the rubber meets the road. I love that quote from Calvin Coolidge, the 30th U.S. president. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. When we run up against obstacles, we as business owners, we have to decide, are we going to push through? Are we going to brainstorm our way around it, dive underneath it, whatever it takes, avoid the obstacle, go over the roadblock? Or are we going to just give up, throw up our hands and be like, I tried, it didn't work out. That's too bad. I called once, they never got back to me. Hey, at MKE Business Coach, we're honored to walk alongside our clients. We cheer them on through obstacles, brainstorm new paths forward, and take next steps together. When you hit those obstacles on your growth journey, reach out to us. We're here to help. Next, I went on to ask Dave about how he shifted the focus of the business, which started out as a bar. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Yeah. So when I bought the bar, it was a corner bar. and the homeless people and the factory workers up and down the street. I own the building. I had tenants on the second and third floor that, they worked the factories in the area or factories on the far south side. They'd show up after work, shots and beers and maybe buy some food. But I had some experience in the restaurant business. I worked 3 years at the Boulevard Inn in my senior year, 2 years after high school, and at some other jobs in restaurants. And just with the pride I had, the previous owner, I just took over their same menu, honestly. They served burgers and fish fries. I was going to serve burgers and fish fries, basically the same menu. But I was going to make a better burger, a better fish fry. So I went out and I found a better bun. I said, I'm making a name for myself. I want people to know I've got the best burgers in Milwaukee, and this is what I got to do. And it worked for me. It's one of the things I did different. And so I started to be known for the burgers I was serving. That's right. I was walking out of the Pick and Save, and I looked down at the Shepherd Express in their little stand there, and the front page read, "The Fine Art of Pub and Grub." And I picked it up, and it was so much wishful thinking on my part that they'd be writing about me. I was nobody. I had been in business a year or so. And I opened it up and I looked through it, and I remember reading some of the 5 bar and grills that they wrote about. I had been to a couple, 3 of them, I can't recall. So I called up the Shepherd Express, and I was so disappointed. I said, "Who's in charge here?" And they said, "Well, Dave Larson, he's the head of arts and entertainment." And I said, "I want to speak to that guy." They put me through. I left a message on his voice. And a couple of days he shows up at the bar, and we didn't have much business. And of course, this is years before I built this room we're in now. He sits at the bar. He introduces himself, I believe, because I don't think I would have known who he was. He has a burger. And the following week, he does a story on me and on the business. He says, Dave Sobleman says he has the best burger in Milwaukee, and it might be due to his good taste in buns, something along those lines. And I loved seeing my name in print, and that was just the beginning. It was super thrilling. But anyway, I think the question, how this thing came about for me, was just the pride I had. I wanted to make a name for myself.
I love this. I just wanted to make a better burger, period, full stop. There's the reason for all the brand recognition around Sobelmans. So often the most successful businesses are just doing this. They're making a better burger, a better car, a better website, a better O-ring, you name it. But the reality is not necessarily the product has to be something so earth-shattering new. In Dave's case, he kept the old menu, but his distinguishing factor was the quality of the ingredients. He wanted a high-quality bun, for example. And this was at a time when people were using the cheapest buns they could possibly find. He distinguished himself by having a higher quality burger, and then he emphasized it when people wrote stories about it. And do you notice once again the persistence? Dave went out and found a journalist. He found someone to write the story about him that he wanted to have. He called up the Shepherd Express and asked to speak to the editor. I love this drive. Sometimes our opportunities come to us, but sometimes we need to make our own opportunities. I want to encourage you. What are you seeing as an obstacle right now? And what can you do about it? Is there someone you can call up? You can email, ask for an introduction, try again and again and again? Go do that. I went on to ask Dave about some of the challenges he had in running the business. I think his answer is amazing. Let's listen.
The customers are great. No problems with customers. No problems getting people in the door. It's the management of staff. You have different personalities. You have different work ethics. You ask people to do things and they'll do them for you one day, they won't the next day. What you have to do is, when you manage people, is find a way to be firm but nice at the same time. You can't just scream all the time, because they'll quit or they'll walk around, and you don't want to create an environment where everybody's unhappy. Just the opposite. You want to have an environment where everyone's happy. I'm constantly complimented on how nice my staff are and the good job that they do. Like, people come out of their way to find me. I might be behind the bar, I might be outside, wherever I'm at, and they just, I want you to know your staff is great. We've been in their way. This place is packed. They're trying to serve their food, and nobody has, they're so nice to us. It's please, it's thank you. So there's this weird thing, for me, I'm so disappointed in them when you come in the morning and they didn't clean properly. But at the same time, they do such a good job waiting on the staff that, not only do I know I shouldn't be screaming at them, because I need to create a healthy, fun environment for them to work in, I also understand they might not be so good at that. So I will have to go over and I will re-sweep this floor and I'll re-wipe down the table, because they are so great with my customers.
I hear all of those nodding heads. Where there are people, there are problems. That's just going to be a truism in business. And I love the way Dave dealt with this. We've talked about this before on the show, and I've written articles about it on our website, mkebusinesscoach.com. And sometimes the best way to deal with personnel issues is to find another way. He didn't want to throw out the baby with the proverbial bathwater, so to speak. His staff did a great job waiting on people. So great, the customers came and found him wherever he was and complimented him on his staff. Now, most restaurant owners would kill to have that kind of customer enthusiasm. But the fact remains that the staff weren't meeting his expectations. And it wasn't for lack of training. It's clear what they needed to do. So Dave has to decide, does he scream at his staff? Does he fire them all? Or does he find another way? And in Dave's case, he took the road less traveled, which is a road we seriously want to encourage you to consider. Find another way. Dave picked up the mop and he did it himself. Folks, there is another way. We have to decide what hills we're going to die on. And sometimes we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot by screaming and yelling at our employees when in reality, we may need to find another way to get to the ultimate outcome we're looking for. If this resonates with you, reach out to us. We're here to help brainstorm additional solutions. So a critical question in Dave's story is, when did he know it was time to grow? Let's listen to his answer.
We hear from people constantly say, man, can you open up one of these by us? Can you open up one of these by us? And we decided, there's a market. People want us. And we decided to sell franchises. We put some articles out there and people responded. We sold 2 franchises in 2015. They opened up in 2016. So it was around the 2014, 2015 years that we realized that people want more Sobelmans and they don't want to have to wait till the weekend and come downtown. Maybe we could open up a place and they could go there during the week. Most of our customers tend to come from outside of the area. Now they don't drive downtown as much during the week. They come down for special events, whether it be Bucks games tonight, Brewers games, concerts, stuff like that.
Here's a regular one that we hear at MKE Business Coach. When's it time to franchise my business or get a second location or continue to do that expansion? Well, first and foremost, like Dave points out here, make sure there's a demand. He kept being asked over and over and over again. Hey, I should have one of these by us. Hey, we should have one of these by us. Okay, great. So that's the number one key. Let's make sure there's a demand. But secondly, make sure you have repeatable processes and document them. Sobelman's Burgers have a unique recipe to them. They have a unique and delicious bun. And Dave shared earlier on the show that his staff have a unique and friendly way about them. These are the processes that make Sobelmans unique, and therefore they're part of the value proposition for any potential franchisee or for any second location or for any expansion. When a franchisee buys your franchise, they're looking to repeat your success. That's also one of the keys. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about franchising your business or opening up that additional location. I went on to ask Dave about how he's grown as a leader. Let's listen to what he says.
I think, me and my wife coming from such humble backgrounds, she comes from a small town in North Carolina. I was born in St. Louis. We're middle class to poor to middle class, humble backgrounds, grew up on the north side of Milwaukee. We're just humble, nice people. And I think that plays a huge role in our success. Like, I don't come in here and think I'm better than my staff, and I'm friends with my staff. I'm godfather to one of my staff members' daughter. We vacationed with staff before. We go out to eat with staff. We order food. We've learned over the course of the 26 years, but also we're just nice people. And in most cases, when you're a nice person, people are nice in return.
No one likes working for a jerk. Am I right? So be the business owner that you would have liked to work for. I love this advice from Dave. I love the story that Dave told. He learned from experience, and he learned by being nice to his team, to his staff. He hung out with them. He didn't think of himself as better than them. If you've ever worked for someone else, you know exactly what we're talking about here. This is absolutely essential. As Jesus, the big man himself said, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Simple, but true. I went on to ask Dave about funding his business. Listen to what he has to say.
So I had a carpet cleaning business prior to this, and then I didn't know what I was going to do for a couple of months. But I sold my carpet cleaning business for $8,000, I think it was, to a guy. Basically, I sold the 2 vans, the carpet cleaning machines, vacuum cleaners, and I introduced him to all the landlords, something like that. And I took that same money, and that's the money I used to open up this. So I had the money to clean this up, put a carpet in next door, order new tables and chairs, stuff like that, and to pay for my beer in advance, because right away the beer companies, because I had no history, they weren't giving us any credit. Getting finances after that. I had a customer. He always stood out because he came in 3 times in one day. And I didn't know it until I got to know him better, that he worked for a bank. But he came in 3 times for one day. He loved it. He just discovered it, and the burgers were so great. So he became a great customer. We became friends. And when it was time, I had outgrown this place. The next door, it was just too small. My grill was too small. I couldn't serve the customers. People were waiting an hour for burgers. So people were waiting an hour and then giving it up because there was lines out the door. So I went to his first name was Kevin. And I went to him. I said, man, I want to build an addition. I want to build on the side. I've outgrown this place so much. We got to do something. And he wasn't really that wasn't his field. He was in banking, but commercial loans wasn't him. But we went to another room. I met him down at the bank. We went to another room and we all sat down. He believed in me because he was a customer. And he found out a way, and they gave me $145,000, I think it was. And with that money, I built this addition. And I built the kitchen upstairs, and I was able to, I had a bigger kitchen with a bigger grill, and I had a bigger dining room, so I could serve a lot more people all of a sudden.
I love this. Folks, there are lots and lots of ways to fund your business. Dave used 2 of them. What's the first one? Bootstrapping. This is funding the business using your own personal savings or revenue that you generate from the business itself. In Dave's case, when he sold his original carpet cleaning business, he had about $8,000 to put towards fixing up the corner bar and making a Sobelman. The second way he funded was through traditional bank loan. And I want to point out something really, really important that we emphasize at MKE Business Coach. Dave didn't just up and go approach any old banker. He didn't walk into his local bank and ask for a big loan. He built a relationship with his banker that made all the difference. Do not ask strangers for money. It is too difficult to get it. His banker believed in him because he'd eaten at the restaurant. He'd seen how busy it was. And he knew that if Dave had more space, he could serve more customers. And that was after the banker and Dave had built a relationship. That's when Dave asked for the loan. So go find yourself a banker. Find yourself 2 bankers who you trust and get to know them and have them get to know you and your business, even before you need any money from them. And so that when it comes time for you to get a loan because all your business is bursting at the seams, these are the people you're going to go to because they know you and they already believe in your business. I went on to ask Dave if he had any other final gems of wisdom to share to anyone else considering to open a business. I think his answers are really fun.
If you're determined to do it, go 110%. Give it your absolute all. If you're going to be in the bar and or restaurant business, buy your building. Don't lease. You don't want to do this for 10 years and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm tired. You want to walk away from this with some equity. You want to buy a building for $300 and sell it for $500, something like that. When you want to walk away, you want there to be a light at the end of the tunnel or a prize at the end of the rainbow, whatever it is. One thing that I've been thinking about that I heard somebody say, some things cost money, but effort costs no money. Hard work costs no money. Pride, it's free, man. So if you go into business, give more effort, work a little harder, show more pride. That stuff is free.
I love this. Pride is free. Hard work is free. Give 110%. As business owners ourselves, we know about the gut-wrenching days and sleepless nights. There are ways to cope with that and keep on walking through. But we also know the business owners who have succeeded on one thing in common. They give it 110%. Maybe they give it 150%. At MKE Business Coach, we understand and know that determination to work hard combined with a strong strategic plan for the future is an unstoppable combination that leads to success. Well, like you, I cannot do this on my own. There are so many people who contribute to be able to bring this amazing product to you. If you like what you hear, I do want to encourage you, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I'm Brent Halfwasson, owner of MKE Business Coach, and I want to remind you that being a growth company means upgrading your current business. See you next time.